speaking of best teams around, it seems as though there is a consensus top three, at least on paper, going into the opening weekend. What say you?
Arda, who's up number one in your power rankings? Is it the Dallas Empire? Is it the Atlanta FaZe? Or is it the Chicago Huntsmen? I'm going to go with Dallas Empire. I know everyone else on the pro rankings, where they had pros coming in and also coaches by COD Intel, they had Atlanta FaZe as the number one team. But I'm going with the veterans here. I think you can't overlook Crim 6 and Clayster, and knowing that the fact that they've got a young guy in Hook who's always been a monster regardless of the FPS he plays, and two new faces that are willing to learn, I feel like Dallas Empire is going to be able to deal with the pressure situations that Atlanta FaZe maybe might not be able to with their lack of experience.
In that second tier, though, I was in Minnesota this past weekend, actually. Lucky me, 2 back-to-back weekends in the Minnesota nice state. But I was able to talk with some of the Minnesota Rocker players and staff, and it seems like there's a little bit of a sneaky good vibe there, right? Like one of the teams that could really surprise this year in the league. Who's on your list for that?
I definitely think Minnesota is going to be a squad to look at. I've heard really interesting things about the Florida Mutineers. Either they're going to be incredible or they're definitely going to shock everybody. And I look at Florida as probably the hungriest team amongst all the teams competing in the Call of Duty League. Not many huge names on this lineup. Pristini not able to play with his brother Arcides, is kind of out on his own, playing alongside Havoc down there. And they've got a lot of young talent. So I don't know what to expect out of Florida. They could totally bust, but if anyone is going to boom from kind of the underdogs coming into this event, I think it's going to be the Mutineers, or it's going to be Minnesota Rocker with the world champion Cillian Assault.
So the Optic Dynasty is sort of reborn in Chicago, right? Scump, Formal, Hex at the helm there. And if you were to watch the lead-up videos produced by Call of Duty League, it looks like at least what they're trying to present is friction, or at least like a friction and resolution between Scump and Formal, what happened in the past, and maybe some of that remains. What do you believe? Do you think that this is going to be a team that will be cohesive?
It's T2P. You know, this is a duo. I think when they're at their best, they're unstoppable together. But how long can you keep both parties happy? I think, of course, the campaign is going to be, you know, bigging up the drama and trying to cause a little bit of diversion there. But this is more of Scump and Formal proving that they are better than Crim 6's team and they are better than Karma's team in Seattle. So I think for them, they're going to be very much aligned to start this season. Even if they have a loss early on, I think that's only going to drive them to continue to strive for that number one spot. And I think the most important matches in this entire season are always going to be when you see the Huntsmen match up against the Dallas Empire going up against Crim 6, and when they match up against the Seattle Surge when they play Karma.
And they will be facing the Dallas Empire in opening weekend. They also face Optic Gaming LA. Now, I wonder how much of the old rivalries or storylines will carry over, or will we see new budding rivalries take center stage, especially since we're now in a city-based format? What do you think?
It's Call of Duty. We've been playing this for over a decade. They are going with the old school rivalries. Yes, there'll be some budding new stories, and some of the youngsters might get into it. But I think I'm with everyone else. We're here for the old guard. We want to see what's going to go down in the battle of the greatest of all time. And I think that's what this group of players are fighting for. It's that title.
Let's talk a little bit about the New York Subliners. We had a chance to spend a lot of time with them a couple weeks ago. And it felt like, at least in speaking with the players individually, Puckett, they kind of have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder in the sense that it's almost as if, I wouldn't go so far as to say they're offended, but they definitely have taken notice that they aren't being spoken about as much as other teams. What do you think their performance is going to be like?
I think the Subliners have a lot to prove, and this is a team that I don't think is going to gel together immediately. It's something that's going to take a little bit of time. So my expectations are kind of where the community has them right now. I have them in the middle of the pack. I think they have definitely the star power. I mean, you got Zuma, you got Attach, you got Trey Zero, who is one of my favorite players to watch coming out of Europe. And I feel like you've got a great blend of veteran talent, but also still they have the reaction time. Whether or not they're going to be able to succeed right away, though, is the big question. And I think it's going to be I don't want to put it all on one guy, but I think it's going to come down to the way that Temp plays. Because if you watch this guy in the past, he's always been the X factor for his team. He can single-handedly take over a lobby. And if you get Donnie going, the man is just going to hype up the rest of the squad, and that's what you need to go on to win an event. So for the Subliners, I think that they've got to start strong. I think if they do that, they have a chance of winning both of their matches this weekend. But I would look for this team to progress and climb the rankings over time.